Donald Trump's second term has become one of the most dramatic and controversial periods in modern American history. Supporters say Trump returned to office to restore American strength, secure the border, rebuild manufacturing, and put America first. Critics say his second term has increased the instability, raised the tensions around the world, and pushed presidential power further than ever before. And now, with the latest headlines involving Iran, rising gas prices, Ukraine tension, Maduro, court battles, and the Epstein files, America feels more politically divided than ever. So in today's video, we are taking a balanced look at both sides. We will discuss 5 good things supporters believe Donald Trump has done during his second term, and 5 bad things critics believe have negatively affected Americans. So let's begin. 5 good things Donald Trump has done in his second term. Number 1. Stronger border security. One of Trump's biggest priorities in his second term has been immigration enforcement. His administration expanded deportation operations, tightened asylum restrictions, and increased pressure on border agencies. Supporters believe these policies helped reduce illegal crossings and restored confidence in immigration enforcement. Many Americans who support stricter immigration policies argue that the previous administrations failed to control the border effectively. To them, Trump's policies represent national security, law enforcement, and protection of American jobs. Supporters also argue stronger border enforcement helps reduce cartel activities, drug trafficking, and human smuggling operations tied to organized crime networks. Critics, however, argue that some of these measures have been overly aggressive and created humanitarian concerns. Still, immigration remains one of Trump's strongest political issues. Now to number 2, expanding American energy production. Trump's second term strongly backed oil, gas, drilling, and pipeline expansion. Supporters say these policies protected American energy jobs and reduced dependence on foreign energy producers. But this issue became even more important after tensions with Iran exploded in 2026. The conflict around the Strait of Hormuz created global fears about oil supply disruptions, causing gas prices to spike across the world. Brent crude surged above $100 per barrel during the crisis. Trump supporters argue domestic oil production became critical during the crisis because America needed energy independence. They also point to recent reports showing oil prices briefly dropped after Trump announced the negotiations involving Iran and reopening shipping routes in the Strait of Hormuz. Supporters believe Trump's energy policies helped America respond more aggressively during the crisis. Critics, however, argued ordinary Americans still suffered from rising gas prices during the conflict. And to number 3, tougher foreign policy toward Iran and Maduro. Trump's second term adopted a far more aggressive foreign policy towards both Iran and Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. Supporters argue Trump projected strength internationally and pressured authoritarian governments more aggressively than previous administrations. Trump reinstated the maximum pressure campaign against Iran and imposed tougher sanctions targeting Iranian oil exports. Supporters also applauded Trump's actions against Maduro's government in Venezuela, arguing that socialist leadership in Venezuela created economic collapse and instability across Latin America. Many conservatives believe Trump's hardline foreign policy sent a message that America will not tolerate hostile government threatening U.S. interests. Critics, however, argue that these aggressive approaches increased the risk of wider conflict and instability. Number 4. challenging government bureaucracy and federal agencies. Trump supporters believe his second term aggressively challenged what they called the deep state. His administration pushed for greater presidential control over federal agencies and reduced the influence of long-term government officials. Supporters argue unelected bureaucrats have too much power in Washington and are not accountable to voters. To them, Trump is attempting to reform a government system they believe became too politically entrenched. Supporters also praise Trump for openly criticizing institutions they believe Americans no longer trust, including parts of the intelligence community, federal agencies, and even some courts. Critics argue these attacks weaken public trust in institutions. And to number 5, pushing for declassification and transparency. One of the biggest issues among Trump supporters involves calls for transparency around high-profile investigations and government secrets. Many supporters continue demanding fuller disclosure of the so-called Epstein files connected to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Trump supporters argue the American public deserves transparency regarding powerful individuals allegedly connected to Epstein's network. Critics argue Trump has also faced scrutiny over his own past social connection to Epstein, though no evidence has emerged linking Trump to Epstein's crimes. Still, many supporters believe Trump's broader push against secrecy and political elites resonates with Americans frustrated by lack of accountability in Washington. 5 bad things Donald Trump has done in his second term. So number 1, rising gas prices and economic anxiety. One of the biggest criticisms of Trump's second term involves rising fuel prices connected to the Iran crisis. The conflict surrounding Iran and the Strait of Hormuz disrupted global oil markets and caused major spikes in energy prices. Reports showed gas prices approaching or exceeding $4.50 per gallon during the crisis. Critics argue Trump's aggressive posture towards Iran contributed directly to global instability and economic pressure on ordinary Americans. Even though oil prices later eased after ceasefire negotiations, many Americans felt the impact at gas stations and grocery stores. Supporters respond that strong action against Iran was necessary despite temporary economic pain. And to number 2, increased political division. Critics argue Trump's second term intensified America's political polarization more than ever. Trump's speeches, interviews, rallies, and online posts dominate national conversations almost daily. Critics say the tone of American politics became increasingly confrontational and hostile. Supporters argue Trump simply says what many Americans are already thinking, but critics believe the constant political warfare has damaged national unity and increased distrust between Americans. And to number 3, concerns about judges and the courts. Another major controversy during Trump's second term involves conflicts with judges and the judicial system. Trump has repeatedly criticized the judges who ruled against his administration on immigration, executive power, and election-related issues. Supporters argue some judges are politically biased and interfering with elected leadership. Critics, however, warned that attacking judges and court rulings could weaken public confidence in the rule of law and judicial independence. Legal experts have expressed concerns about increasing political hostility towards the courts during Trump's presidency. And to number 4, Ukraine and global tension. Trump's approach towards the Russia-Ukraine conflict remains deeply controversial. Supporters argue Trump is trying to avoid endless wars and reduce American involvement in foreign conflicts. Critics, however, worry that uncertainty surrounding America's support for Ukraine may weaken NATO alliances and embolden adversaries like Russia and China. Recent reports suggest some American allies allies fear Trump's unpredictable foreign policy style may create long-term instability among U.S. partnerships. Critics also worry that conflicts involving Iran, Ukraine, and China could overlap into larger global crisis. And to number 5, corruption allegations and questions about accountability. Trump's second term continues to face criticism involving ethics, corruption allegations, and conflicts of interest. Critics argue Trump frequently attacks investigation into his administration while accusing political opponents of corruption. Supporters responded that Trump himself had faced years politically motivated investigations and media attacks. At the same time, debate over the Epstein files, lobbying influence, corporate interests, campaign donations, and government transparency continue fueling public distrust in both political parties. And for many Americans, that's become the biggest issue of all: a growing belief that powerful people, regardless of party, are rarely held accountable. Now to conclusion, Donald Trump's second term has reshaped Americans' politics in real time. To supporters, he is a leader fighting for border security, energy independence, government reform, and stronger American power on the world stage. To critics, it represents rising instability, increased division, economic uncertainty, and dangerous expansion of executive authority. And now, with ongoing tensions involving Iran, gas prices, Ukraine, Maduro, the courts, and the Epstein files, America remains deeply divided about Trump's leadership. Love him or hate him, Donald Trump continues to dominate American politics unlike any modern president. And there you have it, 5 good things and 5 bad things Donald Trump has done during his second term. Do you think the positives overweigh the negatives, or do you think the negatives overweigh the positive? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.